Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Stella. I would like to specially thank everyone that has subscribed to this channel. I appreciate you guys so much. And if you're just coming across my video for the first time, kindly subscribe to the channel and turn on your notification bell because I post sewing tutorials on this channel and they are super detailed. Okay, let's jump right into what we have today. Now, this is going to be a continuation video. So in our previous video, I drafted the pattern for this lovely dress. All right, so in this video we're going to be transferring all our patterns to the fabric and we'll be sewing it, and as usual it's going to be a detailed video and it's going to be step by step as well. Now let's jump right into it. So I've gone ahead to transfer all our patterns to the fabric. Now let's look at them one after the other. So here's the center front fabric. I have laminated the lace. Now, lamination is simply the process of you joining your interlining and your lace so that they become one. All right, we all know that when you're working with a lace fabric, you need your lining and your interlining and then your actual lace fabric. So I also ironed down my interfacing on the lining. All right, so this is it for the center front. Now let's look at the side front. Okay, so here's the side front. I also laminated the lace fabric as well. I already told us what lamination is. Okay, so it's a terminology that you're going to be hearing more often in this video. So this is the side front and I have laminated it like I explained. Now let's look at the lining of the side front. I also ironed down my interfacing on the lining and I'm making use of hairstay interfacing for this particular dress. Now let's look at the center back. So here's the center back. I first laminated the lace, all right, and I went ahead to give it a good press. Now you need to be careful when laminating so that you don't burn your lace. I also ironed down my interfacing on the lining. Now let's look at the side back. So here's the side back. As usual, I have the lace laminated, all right, and I also ironed down my interfacing on the lining. And like I said, ironing down interfacing on your lining is actually optional. All right, now let's look at the joining process. So we're starting with the center back and I'll go ahead and use a loose stitch to stitch down on my 1-inch zip allowance. Now the loose stitch is so that you can see your crease line when you're done. So I'll do the same thing on the lining and I will press it open so that I can see the crease line when it's time to fix the zip. All right, so this is the first thing that we're going to be doing on the center back. Afterwards, I'll go ahead and join the side back to it. So I'll join the side back to the lace and I'll also do the same thing on the lining. Now for every piece that I join, I'll be pressing it open. This is one of the top secrets to a perfect fit dress. So let's move over to the joining of the front. So I'm going to come in with the side front fabric and we're going to join also. Now in joining, it's advisable you start your joining from the hem, okay, from the waistline up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and join the lace fabric and I'll also join the lining and I will give it a good press. Emphasis on the good press. Yeah, let's look at the skirt. So here is the front of the skirt. Now because the lace is thick, I'm not going to be having an interlining on this, so we're simply going to be having just the lace and the lining. And like I explained, because the lace is thick. Now for your regular lace fabric that is light, you will need your lace fabric, then you need your interlining or your underlining, and then your actual lining to turn everything. Now another point you need to take note of is your notches. So you need to notch your hip line and your knee line. Now these notches will help you when it's time to do your shaping. So this is it for the front. Now I also closed down my dart and I explained this in the pattern drafting video. So let's look at the back. Now here's the back. You remember from the drafting video, I closed the dart on the back and I went ahead to notch all the points. And like I explained earlier, you need to notch all your points. So here's my notch on the hip length. I also have my notch on the knee length. All right, and my slit allowance is 2 inches. So the slit allowance that I have there is 2 inches wide. So I also added my 2 inches side seam allowance on this, and I notched the hip length and the knee length as well. Like I said, it will guide you when it's time to do your shaping. So I'll proceed to take off my pattern from the lace so that we can move over to the joining process. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take off, but before then, let's look at the joining process since it will be clearer here. All right, so our normal joining process, I'll use a loose stitch from the waist to the hip length. Now, because my zip is stopping on the hip length, all right, that's why my loose stitch is stopping on the hip length. So from the hip length, I will return my stitch to a normal tight stitch all the way to where my slit is going to start from. All right, so I'll take that again. I'll use a loose stitch from my waist to the hip, which is where my zip is stopping, and from the hip length, I'll use a normal tight stitch all the way to where my slit is starting, and the length of my slit is 22 inches. So from there, I'll return my stitches back to a loose stitch all the way to the hem. And remember, I use loose stitches which I will afterwards press, and this is because I will need to see the crease line when it's time, okay, to make use of those areas. So this is it. Now I'll go ahead and do the same thing on the lining, and I will give it a good press. All right, and we will continue. Now here we have it. I have joined the center back, so all I explained is the same thing that I did, and this is it. Now I have a detailed video on how to turn your lace with your lining and finish up your slit this way. All right, I feel that this is actually very beautiful, because when you wear it or when your client wears it and maybe the slit area opens, the fact that you still get to see the fashion fabric is it for me. All right, so let's look at the front. So this is it. Now I have also gone ahead to join our half length. All right, and if you pay attention, you will notice that I pressed all the stitches open. Now let's see the back as well. So here's the back. I have my center back joined using a loose stitch, and I've joined the sides as well. Now let's look at the lining. So I've joined all our pieces and I pressed it open, as you can see. Yeah, and I also went ahead to tack the back up on the lining, and I have a super detailed video on how to do this, so I'll leave the link in the description box. It's easy and it's straightforward. Now at this point you can do your shaping, all right, but let's move over to the joining process. So I'll come in with the skirt part of the lining, and we're going to go ahead and join it on the waist using half an inch. So that's the allowance that we left for joining. So I'll proceed to join the lining to lining of just the front, and I'll do the same thing on the fashion fabric as well. And by fashion fabric, I'm referring to the lace. So I'll also join the lace of the front, okay, so the half length and the lower part, which is the skirt part. I'll also join them on the waist using half an inch. Now we're going to repeat the same thing on the back. So for the back, I'll go ahead and join just the lace first. All right, so we're not joining everything together. So I'll go ahead and join the lace first, and I will join the lining separate as well, all for the back. Now I'll do this, I'll give it a good press, and we will continue. Okay, so before we move on, you will need to do your shaping on the sides at this point. So the moment you're done joining them on the waistline, you will need to do your shaping on the sides now that you still have the fabric open. And here it is. I have joined them on the waist. So this is the back. So I went ahead to join it. Now I'm yet to press it on the waist. Okay, so you need to press your stitches open. Like I said, it's one of the secrets to a perfect fit outfit. All right, so I'll go ahead to press them open. Now I also went ahead to turn the neckline of the back with the lining, and I notched it at that angle. Now you need to go away from the zip allowance by 1 inch because we're yet to fix the zip. Okay, so you can see I've turned the neckline and I notched it at the angle so that it can ease the lining. So I'll go ahead and turn it to the right side, and here it is. Now I'll go ahead and fix my zip. Okay, but before then, if you take a look at this style, you will see that it has a lacing bar at the back, and it also contains eyelets. So I've gone ahead to cut out this piece of fabric, and the width is 2 inches. Now for the length, I won't tell you the exact length to use because it depends on the exact place where you're placing yours. All right, so you go ahead and measure the place where you are going to be fixing this on, and that will be your length. All right, but for mine, the length is 8 inches. So for the placement, I want to place it on the dart leg. So that joining part that we have there, I'll go ahead and place it this way. All right, now take note, whatever you do on this side, you're going to be doing the same thing on the other side as well. So I'll go ahead and place it this way, and I'll be stitching it down using half an inch. That means that we'll be left with 1.5 inches when we are done. So I'll go ahead and position it properly. I'll also do the same thing on the other side, just so that they are equal and uniform at the end. All right, now let's move over to the stitching process. So to stitch it down, I'll separate the lining inside. Okay, so you need to take off the lining away from your stitch line, and I'll go ahead and place it down. Then I'll flip it open, all right, and I'll stitch down on 0.5 inch. Afterwards, I will turn it back up this way, and I'll top stitch on it. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. It's super easy. Open it up, stitch it down on your half inch, and you flip it, all right, to the other side. Then you top stitch on it so that it remains stable. Okay, so I'll do this, and much later I'm going to be putting my eyelets on it. Yeah. So the moment I'm done stitching down the lacing bar, I'll go ahead and join the lining of the half length to the lining of the skirt. Okay, and this is it. So let's look at the front lining. I've gone ahead to join it on the waist, and I will still press it open. Okay, so don't judge me yet. I'll still press it open on the waistline. Okay, now I will use the lining to turn the lace fabric on the neckline. Now it's a lot easier for you to turn your neckline at this point before you join them on the sides, so that it will be easier for you to handle the fabric. So I'll go ahead and do that, and here we have it. I have joined the back, so I've joined the lacing bar. I will still fix my eyelet much later, and I fixed my zip as well. You can see how it's looking. I've joined the zip. I've turned the zip with the lining. All right, I feel the highlight of the back for me is the slit area. Okay, now I'll come in with the front, and here it is. I have turned the neckline of the front, and I gave it a good press. So when pressing this, you will need to press inwards your lace fabric, so that the lining will not be poking out when your client wears it. Okay, now let's go ahead and join the two of them. So you will go ahead and place them right sides facing each other this way. All right, and you will proceed to sew the sides. So at this point, you are expected to have done your shaping. So I'll go ahead and stitch down on my shaping lines that I have marked. All right, so after I'm done doing that, I'll join the shoulder. Now there are two methods of joining your shoulder. You can either open it open this way, okay, spread it open and you stitch on 0.5, or you fold one and you use the other to wrap it round, just like I'm doing. All right, and you go ahead and stitch down on half an inch. So these are the two methods. Either of them will still give you a perfect result. So I'll go ahead and join them, and here we have it. I have joined the dress. Okay, so this is it. I have joined the lace, I have joined the lining. We are almost done. I love this dress, and the finishing is something else. Now I have hemmed the lower part. I will still go ahead and overlock all the rough edges inside, and I'll fix the eyelet much later. Now at this point, you will need to use your scissors to clean your armhole, and by clean the armhole, I mean just cut off all the fabric, the excess fabric that you have around your armhole, just so that the edges will be clean. All right, then we'll move over to the sleeve. Now I went ahead to draft her 3/4 sleeve length, okay, and the length is 18 inches. Now for most people, they have their 3/4 sleeve length to be 18 inches. So most average height people have 3/4 sleeve length of 18 inches. Okay, but it's advisable you measure yours. Now I added ½ inch around the sleeve head, and I have my 1 inch size seam allowance to this pattern. And you also need to mark your elbow length. So the elbow length on this particular sleeve is 12 inches, and I'll go ahead and label it. Yeah. So after labeling the elbow length, you need to notch that exact spot. So we're notching the elbow length. Okay, so this notch is going to guide us with the style of the sleeve that we are making. So I'll go ahead and notch it, and here we have it. And I'll proceed to take off my pattern paper. And here we have it. I've taken off the pattern paper. Now remember the notch that we have there indicating the elbow length. The notch is super important. All right, so we'll move over to the drafting of the balloon sleeve. Okay, you can also call it a puff sleeve, but I think it's a balloon sleeve. Now we're going to be doing a little bit of write up here. So the round armhole that we're working with is 18 inches. So I went ahead to measure around the armhole of the dress and I got 18 inches. Okay, you need to measure yours so that you know exactly what you're working with. And I'll be adding extra 2 inches to that just so that I can have a little bit of extra to pleat, okay, because I need the sleeve to be a bit fuller. Now I just added 2 inches to that, so making it a total of 20 inches. Now to get the radius of the armhole, you will need to divide 20 inches by 3.14, and 3.14 is a mathematical formula for a 180 degrees flare. Okay, so if you divide that, it will give you 6.3 inches. So this is the radius of the sleeve. Now for the length, remember we measured from the sleeve head to the elbow length and we got it as 12 inches. So that is the length that the balloon sleeve is going to be covering. I'll go ahead and write that down. So the length is 12 inches. Now I want to add extra 5 inches to this so that the sleeve can drop a little. Remember, it's a balloon sleeve. So I will proceed to add 5 inches to this, and this will give us a total of 17 inches. Yeah. So remember how we got our radius? We measured around the armhole of the dress and we got 18, and I just added extra 2 inches just so that I can have an excess fabric to pleat. That's how we got 20 inches. Now we're going to be cutting a half circle flare. So I simply divided it by the mathematical formula of 3.14, and that gave me 6.3 inches. All right, so this is the radius of the flare. Now for the length, we got our length by measuring from the sleeve head to the elbow length, and we got it as 12 inches. All right, now I added additional 5 inches to the length, so that's how we got 17 inches. Okay, now to know the extent of the folding, we are simply going to add your radius plus your length. So if you do 6.3 plus 17 inches, and that will give us 23.3 inches, but I'll just round that up to 23 inches. All right, so this is the calculation that we're going to be working with. So I'll come in with the fabric and we will proceed. And here is the fabric. So I first folded it into 2, and I'll go ahead and fold it again into 4. Remember, we are cutting a half circle flare, so I'm folding into 4 because I want to cut the 2 sleeves at once. I'll go ahead and fold it again and I will pin it down. Now, one of the secrets to getting your fabric equal when you cut out is your ability to keep the fabric in place, and you can only do that by pinning the fabric down. So if you pay attention, you will see that I pin down my fabric at intervals. So let's go ahead and measure the length of the fabric that we have. So from the tip, what we have there is 22 inches, but you remember from our calculation we got 23 inches, but this is the last of the fabric, so we're going to make use of the 22 inches like that. Now I'll go ahead and mark our radius, and you remember we got our radius to be 6.3 inches. So from the very tip of the fabric, I'll go ahead and mark my 6.3 inches all round, and I will connect it using my tailor's chalk. Here we have it. I have marked the radius. Now let's go ahead and mark the length of the flare. So we're supposed to mark 17 inches as our length, but the fabric, this is all the fabric that I have left, and the length I can get from this is 16 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 16 inches length all round. But before then, I'll pin this down. Remember, the more you pin, the better your outcome. Okay, so you won't have any part of the fabric longer or shorter than the other. Okay, so I have it pinned. Now I'll proceed to mark the length. Remember, the length we're making use of now is 16 inches because that is the length left on the fabric. So I'll go ahead and mark round the length of 16 inches, and I will connect it also using a broken line. And here we have it. I have connected it. I'll proceed to cut this out. Yeah. And here we have it. I have cut it out. So the next thing we need to do is to divide it. Remember, we cut this out for the both sleeves. So I will divide them into 2 on the completely folded sides. And you need to notch the top part and the lower part. Okay, we will see the need for this notch as we proceed. Now, another thing that we need to do is to go ahead and slant one side. So the essence of this is when you wear the dress, the sleeve will not be dropping too much around your underarm. All right. So to slant this, I will just I'll measure down 4 inches from the open side of the sleeve. So I'll take that again. From the open side of the sleeve, I will measure down 4 inches and I'll make a mark there. Remember, like I said, the reason for taking off 4 inches is so that the sleeve will not drop so much around your underarm. Okay, so I'll simply slant it from the completely closed side to the 4 inches. It's just a slant line and I'll cut it off. So it's that simple. It's nothing major. So, and here we have it. Now the essence of this also is so that we can also have an extra fabric to pleat for more fullness. I have also separated the sleeves as well. Now I'll keep one aside so that we will work on one. And I'll come in with our sleeve. You remember our notch on the elbow length? Now we're going to make use of that notch. So I'll go ahead and align the center of the flare that we just cut out to the center of the main sleeve, and I'll pin it down. Now the next thing we need to do is to go ahead and gather the lower part so that it will fit in to the lace. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm going to go ahead and gather the lower part of the flare that we just cut out so that it can fit into the width of the main sleeve. I'll do that, and I will also gather the top part and top stitch it. Okay, but we're going to take it one step at a time. So I'll gather the lower part first and I will show us what it looks like. And here we have it. I have gathered the lower part. Note that you can also pleat, but I just chose to gather. So I will go ahead and pin it down on our elbow length. You remember the notch that we made signifying the elbow length of 12 inches? It's time for you to make use of that notch. So I'll pin down the flare that we have just gathered on that point and I will stitch it down. Okay, so here's the sleeve that I have completed so that it can give you an idea of what we're trying to achieve. Now this is it. So I will come in with our sleeve that we're working on and I will go ahead and stitch down, and this is it. All right, I also top stitched it around the armhole. So you will need to form a little bit of gathers by the sides just so that the sleeve can have more puffiness. All right, now we'll go ahead and close the sleeve by the side, and to do that you need to turn it to the wrong side and you take your measurements, then you go ahead and stitch on it. And in this case I added just 1 inch side seam allowance, so I'll just go ahead and stitch down on it, and here we have it. I have stitched down on my 1 inch side seam allowance. Now I'll flip the sleeve to the right side. Okay, so here it is. If you want your sleeve to be bigger than this, just go ahead and make use of more fabric. And this is it. We are almost done. So the final thing to do is for me to go ahead and attach the sleeve to the armhole of the dress. So I'll go ahead and do that. Yeah. And here we have it. I have attached the sleeve to the dress. Now I also went ahead to fix the eyelet on the bar that we had created, and I tried lacing the back as well. This dress is lovely. The eyelet on the back is just one of the highlights, but the major highlight for me is the slit. The fact that when the slit opens you still get to see the lace inside is it for me. Now let's look at the front of the dress, and this is just a good finished dress. Okay, it's lovely. It speaks professionalism in my opinion, and I'm very sure in your opinion as well. Okay, now I need you to pay attention to the neckline. So when you're ironing this, you need to iron inside your fashion fabric so that the lining does not poke out when the person or your client wears the dress. Okay, now I'll go ahead and turn the dress to the inside and just take a look at the lining. Can you see how all the lines are meeting up? So all the lines are aligning properly. Not minding that it's the lining part, still all the lines are on the same length, and this for me speaks high level professionalism, and that's how yours should come out as well. Okay, whatever you do on the fashion fabric is the same thing that you're supposed to do on the lining. Now take a look at the zip area. The waistline joining, it's on the same line, and look at my favorite part, which is the slit. I just love how the slit is laying perfectly at the back. All right, now take a look at the neckline. They are all fully pressed down. Okay, and here is the dress on the mannequin. Now take a look at the beauty. Okay, so I just love the fact that the balloon sleeve highlighted the style very well, and everything about this dress for me is speaking 10 over 10 all round. And that's it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Kindly subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you get notified each time I post a new video. I want to appreciate everyone that is already part of this family, and for those that are just seeing my video for the first time, you're highly welcome. Thank you for watching, and subscribe so you can become a part of this family. And that will be it, guys, till we meet again in my next video. Bye.
Yeah.